Hi, my name's Thomas. I built that house with my own hands, raised my kids there. But the day I got discharged from the hospital, my own son tossed my meds in the gutter, hissed, "Die on the street," then slammed the door in my face. I sat on the curb with nothing but a hospital wristband and my wife's old handkerchief. You ever wonder how love turns to betrayal and silence turns to power? Stay with me. It gets darker before the light. I sat at the edge of that hospital bed, back aching from the stiff mattress, hands resting on my lap, fingers tracing the folds in the cheap blanket. 2 weeks. That's how long I'd been there, recovering from what the doctors called a mild stroke. Mild, they said, like it was a scraped knee. But nothing feels mild when your body reminds you that it's got a clock, and the ticking just got louder. The room was quiet except for the occasional beep from machines not even connected to me anymore. I stared out the window at the parking lot below. The same view every morning, Southside Chicago. My home, even if the city barely noticed I was still alive. A nurse walked in, young girl maybe 25, with soft eyes and a clipboard in her hands. "Mr. Thomas, you're all set," she said, handing me my discharge papers. "Your son should be pulling up soon." She gave me that look, the one folks give when they know something ain't right but can't say it out loud. I smiled, polite. Said thank you, even though the air felt heavier than goodbye. As she turned to leave, I thought, funny how hospitals make you feel safe until you're well enough to be someone else's problem again. I gathered my bag, checked the little plastic pillbox they gave me, and waited. 15 minutes later, Lavelle pulled up. The SUV was new, shiny, expensive, didn't match the street or him. He didn't get out, just hit the horn twice, short and sharp. I made my way out slowly, no wheelchair, no staff escort, just an old man with a tote bag and a head full of memories. He popped the trunk without a word, and I hoisted myself in. Lavelle didn't say hey, didn't ask how I felt, just adjusted his mirror like I wasn't even there. I looked at his face, his eyes behind designer shades, jaw locked tight, cold. I wanted to speak, to thank him, maybe. But something in me said, don't, just don't. The ride was silent except for the engine and the low hum of a song I didn't recognize. Streets passed by like chapters of a book I didn't write. We weren't heading home, I knew that route. This wasn't it. He pulled into a corner store parking lot, cut the engine, and turned toward me for the first time. "You think you're going to come live in my house?" he said, voice low but sharp enough to cut glass. "Nah, die on the street for all I care." He reached over, grabbed the pillbox from my lap, and tossed it out the window. I heard the plastic crack against the curb. I didn't say a word, didn't beg, didn't plead, just sat there letting the words slice through the little hope I had packed along with my socks. He opened my door. "Get out." I stepped out, slow and steady. The pavement felt warm, but my chest, cold. Not because of the weather, because of him. I stood there as he drove off, the taillights disappearing like he couldn't leave fast enough. I didn't cry. Didn't scream. I smirked. The street didn't feel cold. My son did. I adjusted my hat, brushing off the dust like pride could be cleaned with a flick of the wrist. He'll learn. In that moment, my mind drifted back to the hospital. Not the nurses, not the machines, but the paperwork. The billing office lady with her tight bun and tired smile asking, "Who should we list as your financial contact?" I said Lavelle. "My son, because love makes you believe in loyalty. Like it's some kind of currency your kids know they owe." I watched the SUV fade into traffic, the wind brushing against my sleeves, like the world had decided I was invisible again. My meds lay shattered behind me, pills scattered like marbles, rolling into cracks I couldn't reach. Didn't matter now. What was broken couldn't fix me anyway. "You raise a child thinking love buys loyalty," I muttered, but that's credit they never asked for. I turned slowly, scanning the block. A liquor store, two boarded-up homes, a man sleeping under a tattered coat on the bench. Southside hadn't changed, but I had. That's when I heard it. "Sir, you okay?" I looked up. A stranger, maybe mid-30s, work boots, cracked hands, eyes kind but cautious. I smirked again, not because I was fine, but because I wasn't broken. "I will be," I said. "Just need to make a few calls." Because this wasn't the end. No, this was the part where the silence breaks and the storm begins. I didn't go far that night. just far enough to be out of view. The man who asked if I was okay had already turned the corner. I told him I'd be fine, and I would, but my legs were tired, dragging. That cane I once used as a backup now felt like a lifeline. My hospital wristband was still snug on my arm. They hadn't cut it off. Maybe they forgot. Or maybe it was a reminder. A tag like they put on luggage saying where you've been, not where you're going. I walked along cracked sidewalks, past shuttered stores and bus benches where ghosts of old men used to sit and talk about ball games and bad knees. Now the only voice in my ear was my own. I whispered her name. Kendra, my baby girl. She was always the soft one. When she was little, she'd crawl in my lap and fall asleep before I finished reading the first page of a book. I used to fix her bike, tie her shoes, show up to every spelling bee. And when I walked her down that aisle in a white dress that didn't need no church lights to shine, I remember thinking, she'll never turn her back on me. I got to her house just as porch lights were coming on. I stood straight, smoothed my shirt, knocked once. Kendra opened the door. At first, her eyes lit up, then dimmed just as quick. She stepped outside and pulled the door shut behind her. That told me more than words could. "Daddy," she said, hands clutched tight. "You should have called." "I did. Left 2 messages," I said, voice even, but my chest tight. She looked over her shoulder. "The kids, they got that flu going around. And Jerome, you know how he gets about surprises." I nodded slowly. I wasn't asking for the world. Just a couch, maybe a meal, a little mercy. She flinched at that. "It's not that I don't want to help. It's just, this isn't the time." A pause hung between us like a curtain too heavy to lift. She whispered, "I love you, Daddy." "I do." I forced a smile. "I understand. You take care now." And I walked. I didn't rush, didn't turn back, just put one foot in front of the other, cane clicking on the sidewalk like a metronome, marking every step I took away from her life. I got near the alley by the side of her house when I heard voices. The kitchen window was cracked open. I didn't mean to stop. My feet just did. "You think Grandpa gonna be okay?" a young girl's voice asked. "That old man always bounced back," said another, laughing lightly. A deeper voice, and Jerome, I figured, said, "He had his time. We ain't built for caretaking. That's not our job." My chest went still. I didn't cry, didn't speak, just nodded to myself. So that's what I was. A duty, not a father. I walked on. Bitterness wasn't boiling. It was settling. Like cold coffee you left on the counter too long. I wasn't angry. I was just done. About 5 blocks down, I spotted Clyde sitting on his porch. That man was older than me, always had a toothpick in his mouth and a radio playing blues like it was oxygen. He saw me, raised his chin. "That you, Thomas?" I nodded, slow. "Come on, man. Sit down before you fall down." He handed me a sandwich in a paper bag. Ham and mustard. Nothing fancy, but it tasted like someone still saw me as human. We sat in silence a while. Then he spoke. "They forgot who put food on they plate, but life has a way of teaching folks." I chewed slow, nodding. He leaned back. "Your boy kicked you out?" I didn't answer. He didn't press. That was kindness. "I ain't mad no more," I said eventually. "Just don't got the energy to explain myself." Clyde chuckled low. "You don't have to. The way you keep standing, that explains everything." Later, after the sandwich was gone and the porch light started flickering, I thanked him and kept moving. I found a quiet alley behind the old laundromat. Sat on a milk crate, pulled out what was left of the pill bottle they gave me. I stared at it. The label had my name on it, but the medicine? That was for a man who still believed he'd be taken care of. I unscrewed the cap, dumped the pills into the trash. "If I'm gonna die," I whispered, "it won't be because they left me for dead. It'll be because I stopped playing dead." I reached into my wallet, pulled out a folded slip of paper, yellowed, creased. It had been there a while. Vivian's lawyer. She always said, "If anything ever goes sideways, call her." I looked at the name, then up at the sky. "I wasn't ready to fight," I said under my breath. "Not yet, but I know where to start." Morning came slow. Sunlight slipped through the cheap curtains like it was trying not to wake me. I lay there a moment, eyes open, chest still, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the soft ticking of a wall clock that didn't match real time. I sat up, groaning low as the stiffness set in. My joints didn't care about what I went through yesterday. They just did what they do now, ache without asking. On the nightstand sat that little embroidered handkerchief. To Dad, you're worth fighting for, stitched in gold thread. Odessa gave me that years ago when I thought I wasn't worth anything. Funny thing, a square of cloth can feel heavier than a Bible some mornings. I said a small prayer, just between me and him. Not asking for much, just enough. I checked the pill bottle. Not many left. Most had been crushed under Lavelle's tires, scattered across asphalt like promises never meant to be kept. Every missed dose wasn't just about health. It was like a countdown clock ticking off what little dignity I had left. I pulled on my coat, thin for the season, and stepped outside. Streets looked the same, but I didn't. That's the strange part. Life goes on like it didn't just shove you face first into the gutter. Kids laughed across the street. Old men leaned on canes that looked just like mine. Someone swept a porch. Ordinary morning. But it didn't feel like mine anymore. I walked the block. Not quick, just steady. The barbershop came into view. A few heads inside turned, nodded politely, but their eyes darted away just as fast. Shame moves in silence. Nobody wanted to ask questions they didn't want answers to. I kept moving. Past Kendra's street again. I didn't plan to stop. But my feet slowed when I neared her backyard. Her fence didn't hide much. I heard voices. Light laughter. Porch chairs creaking. "How long you think Grandpa gonna last out there?" one voice said. Sounded like Tasha, my granddaughter. A low chuckle. "Man, he's stubborn," said another. "He might just outlive us." Then Jerome's voice, dry as overcooked toast. "We ain't built for caretaking. He had his time." I didn't breathe, didn't blink, didn't move. I let the words burn straight through me. That's what I was now. Expired, not a man, a weight. I stepped back, kept walking, but slower. That moment cracked something. Not loud, just a quiet shift inside, like when a tree leans just a bit before it splits. By dusk, I found myself in front of Ellis's place. Man always sat out on his porch with a cup of black coffee and a stare like he could see the truth under your skin. "You look tired," he said without looking up. "You look older," I shot back. He smiled. "Fair enough." I sat down next to him. He didn't ask what happened. I think he already knew. "I've been noticing some things," Ellis finally said. "That project center you started back in the day, it's got your name on the wall, but not in the paperwork no more." I turned to him. "What you mean?" "I mean, I was helping run it, quiet, volunteering, till some new folks decided my methods weren't aligned with the new image, told me maybe I should step back gracefully." I nodded slowly. "That place was supposed to outlive us both, be ours. They kept the building, took your name, pushed your people out. That's how they do it, one kind of death at a time." I let that settle. Felt like someone erased me, slow and steady. "Legacy ain't a statue, Thomas," he said. "It's who remembers you when you ain't useful no more." I didn't answer. I was too busy hearing my own blood move. That night, back at my friend's spot, I sat at the kitchen table. The overhead light flickered like it wasn't sure it wanted to stay awake. I pulled out a notebook. Wrote slow. "To Lavelle and Charisse, you have forgotten who I am." I didn't need to fill the page. The rest would come when it was time. I reached for my wallet, pulled out the card, the lawyer Odessa used when folks tried to cheat her out her mama's house. Card was faded but still had weight. I held the handkerchief tight in my left hand. Let the tears come close, but not fall. I dialed. The phone rang. Someone answered. "This is Wade McCall," I said, voice firm. "I need your help." The morning didn't ask if I was ready. It just showed up. I woke slow. My body ached in ways that didn't feel new but deeper. The little borrowed apartment from Eli had heat, thank God, but it was the silence that crept up on you, the kind that makes every memory louder. I sat up. On the nightstand, that same handkerchief, the one Odessa gave me, still folded neat. "To Dad, you're worth fighting for." I touched it, let my thumb rest on those stitched words. I hadn't earned much lately, but that cloth, that felt earned. I pulled open the folder with my discharge papers, the ones they handed me when I was still half numb from the stroke meds. There were signatures I barely remembered scrawling, boxes checked I never questioned. I'd trusted Lavelle to handle things. Thought that was what family meant. But trust don't mean paper means truth. In the envelope's crease, I found a legal notice. Competency review in progress. My name. Small print. Real quiet. Like they hoped I'd miss it. My hands shook a little, not from fear, but from fire. It was starting to burn. By lunchtime, I made my way to the courthouse. Had to walk part of it. Bus didn't run direct. I wore the same coat, same shoes, same pain in my hip. But something inside had shifted. I wasn't looking for pity. I was looking for receipts. The records office was cold and smelled like wet paper. Woman at the counter asked for ID. She looked at me sideways when she saw my name, like she'd seen it come across her desk before. I waited on a cracked vinyl chair, hands in lap, watching a flickering TV on mute. Folks passed through with files, folders, whispers. When she handed me the documents, I read every page, every paragraph. They'd filed a claim saying I lacked decision-making capacity, dated 2 days after I got out of ICU. One form said, Thomas Wade McCall consents. But the signature didn't feel like mine. It looked like me, but off, too clean, too smooth. Like someone practiced my name and thought they'd nailed it. I stared at the paper. This wasn't just betrayal, it was paperwork. Bridges I built, hands I shook, folks I helped. Now all that legacy was being rewritten in fonts I didn't choose. Later that day, I met Kai Monroe at a little diner down off 43rd. She was younger than I remembered, sharp, direct. Odessa once called her the storm in a suit. She slid a folder across the table without much greeting. Inside were photocopies, deed transfers, competency evaluations, even a version of my will I didn't know existed. Kai tapped a page. This signature here, see that loop? You don't make loops. I leaned in. That's not my hand, she nodded. And this date? You were still on stroke watch. My stomach tightened. So they forged it. Looks that way. And it ain't just the paperwork, she added. Ellis and Simone saw Lavelle and Charisse meeting with a lawyer. They were talking about needing your name off things to make moves clean. I stared at the folder. Rage didn't scream. It just hummed under your ribs. They said what? I asked. Simone joined us halfway through the meal. I was on the porch, heard them say, we need Dad out of the picture legally before the new contract sign. Ellis followed up, his voice worn thin. They didn't say it loud, but they said it, like you were some line item to erase. I looked down at my hands. Those hands had poured cement, fixed roofs, lifted grandbabies. Now they were considered a liability. Betrayal don't always come in loud fights. Sometimes it comes in notarized envelopes. That night back at Eli's place, I spread everything out on the kitchen table. The discharge papers, the fake will, the court filings. Every lie laid flat like bones before burial. Part of me wanted to knock on Lavelle's door and make it real personal. But that's not how I was raised. And Odessa, she used to say, truth doesn't need to shout, it just needs to stand. So I sat, quiet, firm. I picked up my phone, found the lawyer's number from Odessa's old file. Just as I was about to press call, I saw headlights flick across the window. Then came a car door shutting. I stepped to the curtain, careful not to pull it too far. Lavelle, standing on the curb, looking up at this building. Not angry, not sad, just calculated. He was here, but not for pity. No, this was a reckoning. I woke up before the sun got all the way up. Eli's place was quiet, save for the ticking clock above the kitchen sink. My back ached from the couch, but I didn't groan. Pain was familiar now, like an old coat you didn't ask for but knew how to wear. That handkerchief still sat folded next to me. To Dad, you're worth fighting for. Every morning I touched it like a ritual, like rubbing truth between your fingers. I pulled out the documents again, medical release, court notices, photocopies of property deeds, some with my name, some with signatures that looked like mine if you squinted. I stopped squinting. They were counting on me to be too tired to look close. I wasn't tired. I was awake now. That morning, I called the lawyer Odessa once trusted, Wanda Fletcher. She didn't answer right off, but I left a message, said my name, said I needed eyes on some paper that didn't smell right. Voice steady, no anger, just business. By noon, I met Kai again at that same diner down on the south side, the kind with cracked leather booths and sticky menus. She was already in the corner booth, flipping through a thick folder like it was scripture. "You're not gonna like this," she said, sliding it across. Inside were side-by-side scans, my original hospital release forms versus a document labeled incapacity confirmation. The latter was dated 3 days after the stroke, but according to the official release, I was already cleared for basic decisions by then. Kai pointed out the handwriting. "This loop in your W, it's missing here. And this date, see the smudge? That's a reprint, not original." She showed me 3 sets of initials on the forged document, none of which were mine. "They filed this to make you legally incompetent, Mr. McCall, so they could take control clean." My throat went dry. I looked at those papers and all I could think about was how easily a man's history could be erased by one line of ink. It wasn't just betrayal, it was theft, with a smile. Simone walked in around 5. She looked nervous. She wasn't family, but she'd been around long enough to know how deep some roots ran. She didn't sit, just pulled out a yellow notepad. "I heard Charisse say it," she said softly. "Right on her front porch. We had to make Dad sign off when he was weak, before he could ask too many questions." She looked down like the words shamed her too. Ellis showed up not long after. Still smelled like clove smoke and engine oil. "I was at Lavelle's office 2 weeks back," he said, sitting slow. "He had these documents out, laughing. Said it was cleaning house. Said the old man don't even know we already won." He looked at me. Not with pity, but pain. "They stripped your name off everything, Wade. Piece by piece." I sat back in that booth like the wind had gone out of me. They didn't stumble into this. They built it, planned it, step by quiet step. Later that night, back at Eli's, I laid everything out on the kitchen table again. Folders, statements, witness accounts, a cold mug of tea next to it all. I didn't cry, didn't pace, just stared. Was it my silence that gave them this much space? I whispered to no one. I remembered Odessa, sitting at that same table years ago, telling me, "Don't let love blind you from truth, and don't let pride hush you when you should speak." I scribbled a note, filed complaint draft, started listing names, witnesses, documents, dates, didn't write for revenge, wrote for reckoning. Then the phone rang. Lavelle. His name glared up from the screen like it knew it wasn't welcome. I answered. "What do you think you're doing?" His voice was sharp, cold. "You're gonna ruin everything we worked for." I didn't blink. "You forged my name," I said flat. "You don't understand how business works. This ain't personal." I held the handkerchief tight in my hand, felt the threads push into my palm. "No," I said. "You made it personal. I'll see you in court." I hung up. That was the last time I would let him define the terms of this fight. I woke up with a tightness in my chest that wasn't from age, wasn't from sickness either. It was something heavier. Like you already know the day about to punch you in the mouth and you stand up anyway. The handkerchief was still there. "To Dad, you're worth fighting for." I didn't even touch it this time. I just looked at it. Let it remind me I ain't done yet. My phone buzzed. Text from Jasmine. "Dad, I lost my scholarship. They said I've become disruptive to the school community. I'm not sorry." My knees gave a little, not from shock, from heartbreak. She had worked so hard, late nights, weekend jobs, full course loads, and she stood up for me once, on social media, at a rally, and they cut her loose like she was baggage. I sat on the edge of Eli's pullout and whispered what Odessa once told me. Children watch what you tolerate. That morning, I didn't just see a tired old man in the mirror. I saw fire, and it wasn't going out anytime soon. By midday, I met Kai and Simone at the park. We picked a table near the far basketball courts, loud enough to stay private. Kai opened her laptop and pulled up pictures. Charisse, laughing with her friends, holding what looked like a legal document. The will. "She's been waving this around," Kai said, pointing. "Bragging about having control, saying it's already done." Simone handed me a printed copy. "This," she said, "is the original will from your safe deposit box. I got a scan when Odessa filed it." Then she pulled out another. Same format, same words, but different dates, different witness signatures. And my name, replaced, redacted, rearranged. I didn't explode, didn't slam the table. I just sat still, like the ground was finally settling underneath all that shaking. This wasn't confusion anymore. This was theft, deliberate, dressed up in ink and notarized lies. She thought no one would check, I said. She counted on fear, Kai replied. And that hit different. That afternoon, word started floating through town like smoke. Barbershop buzzed. Corner store whispers. Church ladies lowered their voices when I passed. Some wouldn't meet my eyes. Others gave me that look, the one where they want to say something but fear got their tongue. I walked into Jenkins Market for some bread and saw a newspaper clipping taped near the register. Local patriarch under scrutiny over forged legal documents. I didn't flinch. I took a copy. I tucked it in my coat. That evening I asked for a meeting. Church hall. Neutral ground. I told the pastor I wasn't coming to argue, just to speak. Clear and open. When I walked in, the room already had a buzz. Charisse stood near the front, flanked by Lavelle. He didn't look smug this time. He looked cornered. I walked slow, held my papers in hand, didn't sit, cleared my throat. My name is Wade McCall, I said. Some of y'all know me, some forgot. Heads turned, eyes focused. I came here not to accuse, but to ask one question. When did loving your father become about owning him? Charisse laughed under her breath. You're confused, Daddy. You don't understand what these papers mean. No, I said calmly. I understand too well. I held up the forged will. This is not Odessa's signature. And it sure ain't mine. I turned slowly. I built this community, brick by brick, from benches to bridges, and now I'm being erased from my own life like I'm some burden y'all just trying to manage. A murmur went through the room. Lavelle didn't say a word. Charisse tried. You're not well, Daddy. Folks know what I let them see, and I'm done hiding. Ellis stood up. I saw them forge it, he said. He's telling the truth. Simone nodded too. They planned it, she added, piece by piece. And just like that, the room shifted. You could feel it. Some folks sat straighter. Others looked down at their shoes like shame was leaking out their souls. I didn't wait for applause. Didn't need none. I walked out before the questions started flying. Outside, the sky was leaking, just a drizzle, light and soft. I stood there for a while, letting it hit my face. Then my phone buzzed again. Lawyer's voice was clear through the crackling line. We have enough. Charisse's actions meet the threshold for criminal fraud. You ready to file? I didn't answer right away. Just reached into my coat, felt that handkerchief. Then I nodded to myself. Yes, I'm ready. I woke up to voices outside my window. Not laughter, not morning greetings, whispers. Short, sharp ones, kids giggling, then quiet when they spotted me behind the curtain. Their mothers muttering at the gate like I was something to be careful around. That handkerchief sat heavy in my pocket today. Not like a gift, more like a shield. Odessa used to say, reputation don't live in what folks think. It lives in what they know you did. And I'd always believed that. Until now. Because lately, folks don't care what's true. They only care what's loud. I stepped outside and made my way toward the corner store. I didn't need groceries. I needed to breathe. Right there, taped to the window, next to the old lotto ads and lost dog posters, was a photo. Odessa. Her wedding portrait, hanging like it was for sale, marked $5. My chest went hollow. That picture used to sit above our mantel. How it ended up here, no note, no frame, just her smile staring back at me through tape and smudged glass, I couldn't even begin to guess. They weren't just stealing my name, they were erasing her, and I wasn't going to let them. I took it down gently, folded it, and slid it in my coat behind the handkerchief. Back at Eli's place, Kai texted, just uploaded, you need to see this. She sent a link. It was a video, short, sharp, and devastating. Clips of me speaking at the last church meeting. Overlay of the forged documents, interviews with Simone and Ellis talking about Lavelle and Charisse, footage of the fake will, the real one, and the gaps between. The title, Who Speaks for the Forgotten? I watched it twice. The first time I was sweating. Second time I was trembling. I never asked to be a symbol. But there I was, face plastered all over social media. Some folks called me brave, others said I was senile, dangerous, unfit, and just like that, I was out in the world. Unprotected, wide open. But something else stirred. pride maybe, or fire. For the first time, this wasn't just me against my own blood. It was about truth against silence. That evening, another church meeting was called. Not by me, by folks who wanted answers. I got there early, sat in the back for a minute before they noticed me and ushered me to the front. Place was packed. Neighbors, former choir members, old friends I hadn't seen since the 80s. Even the deacon from the east side showed up. And then, Lavelle and Charisse walked in. They didn't sneak. They strutted, like they still believed the story was theirs to write, but tension followed them like smoke on a bad fire. I stood slowly when it was my turn, held up Odessa's photo. This was in a pawn shop window. Gasps. One woman covered her mouth. I continued, voice clear, low. That picture lived in my house for 43 years. Y'all sold it for $5. That tells me all I need to know about what family means to some people. I clicked the video on Kai's laptop. Played just the part where Charisse waved the will around at a BBQ like it was a trophy. Silence spread like a stain across the room. Then murmurs. Heads shaking. Some folks started crying. I turned toward the back. This ain't about money anymore. This is about respect, about legacy, about what y'all gonna let happen to your own fathers if we let this slide. Lavelle stepped forward. You're milking this for sympathy. That's all this is. He scanned the room, trying to pull folks in. You want to play hero now? After disappearing when things got hard? Charisse piped up. He's been unstable for years. Y'all just didn't see it because he knew how to hide it. A voice shouted from the crowd, familiar, sharp. We trusted you, Lavelle. I saw who it was, Brother Carter, used to coach Lavelle in Little League. Another voice joined. You sold your mama's ring, boy. Now this? And just like that, the tide turned. Some folks stepped away from Lavelle and Charisse. Others came toward me, patted my shoulder. But not all. Some folks looked uncomfortable. Some wouldn't look at me at all. And that hurt worse. Because betrayal don't always wear a stranger's face. Sometimes it sounds like your old neighbor choosing not to speak. After the meeting, I stepped outside under a sky thick with clouds. The church light buzzed behind me. A young man I didn't know walked up and handed me Odessa's picture, framed now, but with a crack running across the glass. She deserves better than where I found her, he said. You do too. I looked at that broken frame, held it tight. You sold her memory for profit, I said softly, but I'll protect it. I turned around to head home, but I felt him before I saw him. Lavelle. He stormed up, stopped inches from me. His breath came hard. You shouldn't have done this, he said through clenched teeth. I didn't flinch, didn't speak either, just looked him in the eyes like I used to when he was a boy who knew right from wrong. He thinks I'm broken. He's about to find out how dangerous silence can be. I wake before dawn. Light slices through the curtain slits, faint but relentless. My heart thumps, not from fear this time, but purpose. That handkerchief in my pocket feels like armor. Truth doesn't need to shout. Odessa said that. I breathe it in. I spread the evidence folder on the small table, the forged will, the deeds with names replaced, witness statements, that incapacity report that wasn't mine. I check every document again, every page, teeth clenched, because this trial isn't just about reclaiming property. It's about reclaiming who I've always been. I grab my phone. Text Jasmine. Be there early. They'll try to rattle you. Stand steady. She replies, I will. A lump rises in my throat, but pride steadies it. Later, in the courthouse, wood panels gleam under chandeliers. I stand in the gallery among neighbors, elders, folks I haven't seen in years. Lavelle and Charisse sit at the defendant's table, lawyers in crisp suits on both sides. Kai Monroe in the press box, not taking notes but watching. Lavelle's attorney rises first, paints me as unstable. It's about capacity, he says. He wasn't able to understand what he signed. The words land like stones. They want to dismantle me with language. I grip the handkerchief. Shame brushes me, but anger steals me. My lawyer stands next. She doesn't shout. She explains. She shows. Witnesses who saw me lucid, records that prove I was testing strength, not weakness. A real will, handwritten by Odessa, all sealed. Photos of her writing by her hand. Documents not forged. Real love, real proof. Jasmine takes the stand mid-trial. She looks at me, then the room. I saw them change Dad's release form, she says, voice steady. I watched the forged will get passed around at family gatherings. Some folks believed it before I spoke up. Eyes drift, heads nod, tears in some eyes, shock in others. I swallow. Her words carry weight like prayer. Kai presents deed records. The property titled McCall property, mine by every mark. Then deeds with Lavelle's and Charisse's names grafted on later. Signatures coerced. Witnesses to coercion. Documents notarized when I was still in the hospital bed. Simone, Ellis. They testify with trembling voices, holding the burden of what they saw. The judge narrows his eyes. He notes discrepancies. Calls in experts. Then, it happens. The judge bangs the gavel. Orders transfer of property back into my name. Assets restored. Names corrected. My name, again clear under the title deeds. I breathe. A fierce sort of relief pulses through me. Justice, however measured, is real today. Lavelle's lawyer argues. Charisse pleads misunderstanding. Tears, scripted or real, I don't know. Lavelle demands forgiveness. But I stand. Handkerchief visible, voice firm. You tried to erode me piece by piece, I say. But my name, my truth is mine. The room quivers with silence. Outside, I step into midday sun. The heat feels good. Light hits my face. People I passed without a nod now look away. Or nod quietly. Respect. Whispers of, he won at last, drift. Jasmine hugs me, her tears warm, her embrace strong. But as I walk toward my house, I see new boards on windows. Locks changed. Paint peeling where they forced their way in. Lavelle didn't deliver silently. He left marks. He expects me to ring the bell, beg, or just accept. I clutch the handkerchief again, pressed against my heart. I'm not just heard. I'm not just seen. I'm standing. I stepped up the front walk of that house, the one I built with sweat, dreams, Odessa's laughter still echoing in the empty hallways. Windows boarded, paint peeling, broken glass glittering on the porch like teeth. I paused at the door, hand pressed to the wood, feeling every splinter that betrayed what we lost. Inside, trash, graffiti scrawled on walls. Old man done. Your time's up. They thought they could write me out. But I found the letter Odessa left, tucked in her Bible, pages yellowed. Mails to come after she passed. Her friend sent it. Odessa had seen this coming, not the pain but the opportunity. She wrote, "Son, do not seek revenge. Restore what's torn." She said restoration is stronger than rage. Later, Lavelle showed up at dusk, disheveled, eyes wild with anger, wanting a second chance, maybe, demanding restitution. Yes, I didn't raise my voice, chest firm. You're gonna have to learn to be a man without taking from one, I said. Walking past him, he tried to stop me, but the neighbor behind me raised their phone, video rolling. Lavelle's breakdown spread fast, on feeds, whispers, guilt. Then, I stood where Mama's garden once bloomed. The soil dry, weeds thick, Jasmine by my side. Simone, Ellis, folks who saw me when I was invisible. I signed papers registering the McCall Legacy Center. This house reborn as kitchen for meals, space for youth to learn, elders to gather, Odessa's garden patch to come back, flowers she planted rising again. I told them, when you've been broken, you learn how to make space for other folks' brokenness too. I read Odessa's letter in the last room, voice low so everyone came close. Her words about love, community, not the things people take, but what they build in others. I hung her Sunday hat on a nail outside the porch, named the garden Odessa's Peace. Her memory lived in fiber and flower. Folks gathered that evening, gospel music soft from the old radio. I wore my best suit, Jasmine smiling beside me, the sun falling golden. I said aloud, they tried to write me out the story, but here I am, not erased, restored. As folks mingled, I saw a young man at the edge of the crowd. Stranger, but his eyes held something, knowing. He stepped forward, handed me a note. Your name was in my mother's journal. She said you might be my father. I held the note, heart hammering, tears stinging, a twist I never saw coming. Restoration done. Yet the story isn't over.